Now if you look at your print, you'll notice that I have a really nice blue and green background to the whole project, and that requires making a new layer and using gradients. So you are currently clicked on the apple layer. I can tell because it's blue. We need to go down in the layer palette and click on crinkle. We're going to add it above crinkle. So let's go to this flyout menu that I talk about. You know, small, maybe a little hard to see, but wonderful. Click on it and choose new layer. The reason I like to make layers this way is because it does let us name them right away. So this is going to be called the green gradient layer. So just type the words green gradient and say OK. Everything else looks fine. And you notice it placed itself right above crinkle, which is what we do want. I'm next going to have you locate the gradient tool. It's over in your tools, and I'm holding, and I see the flyout menu which says gradient tool, and the keyboard shortcut happens to be G. So go ahead and click on that. Now up at the top here are kind of our choices for the gradient tool. Now if you click on that, you need to use the one that is foreground to transparent. So if you don't have that one selected, go ahead and click on it. And we're going to go over to the palette. Don't worry that that's open. It will close. And we are looking for a nice green. Now if you click on one green, it selects it, but you can always select another. I happen to go with dark green. Now you use a green that you like. This part is not crucial. I like to say it's not brain surgery. So pick a nice green. And what we're going to do with this tool is look down underneath the horseshoe near the edge of the document. You're going to click, hold down with your mouse, and drag about 3/4 of the way up and let it go. That just makes a beautiful green gradient. But there's a little bit more that we need to do to this. Above the apple layer, you're going to see the word normal. This is a layer style, or a layer effect, I should say. So click on that and go to multiply. Now see how it kind of burns it into the picture? It gives it a little bit different look. That looks wonderful. We are next going to look right next to multiply, and you see 100. Click on that little pull down menu and let's go to about 86. Now would I care if it's 84 or 85? No. Somewhere around 86% is actually fine. And by the way, if you have a problem with this gradient, creating this gradient at all, you can always go Command Z on your keyboard and give it another try. It acts like a rubber band. It's a little bit interesting tool. Very nice tool. Now we need to work on that blue layer, so it's basically the same steps. Make sure you're clicked on green gradient, which I think you are. We're going to again go up, click, and make a new layer. We're going to name this one blue gradient. Spell it correctly, please. And say OK. There we have our next layer that we're going to create a gradient on. This time we want blue though. I'm going to go into the blues, and I picked pure blue. Again, this part isn't crucial. You can pick any color that appeals to you, any color in the blue family. So this is going to have to be just the opposite. We are up at the top left near the red dot that closes our document. Don't close it. And we're going to hold down with our mouse and click and drag about 3/4 of the way down. Now watch, when I do Command Z, really easy. I can give it a try again if I had any problems. And you have a lovely blue layer. Same idea up at the top. Normal is going to change to multiply, and our opacity is going to become around 86%. And I'm going to click right below this. I call this the neutral area, and it just went ahead and deselected everything there. So if for any reason you need to do that, that is how you deselect. All right. Now I see underneath Brianna's picture there's a funny box. Now I happen to know that's my placement layer because I made the document. Let's go ahead and delete that. Now you can't delete it. If you click on it and try to delete it, can't delete it. Gives you a symbol. We need to unlock it. You also can't click here and unlock it. That's not going to work. So what we're going to have to do is go up to this padlock and unlock it. So you saw it went away. So it's this padlock right here that would unlock the layer. Now there's a couple ways to do this. The flyout menu has a delete layer, but you also have a little tiny trash can down in the bottom. So either way, delete. Now it's going to say, do you really want to delete that layer? We know we do, so say yes. Wonderful. It's a good time to do a Command S again. Command S, because you have done a lot of work. And let's go over the layers, what you should have at this point. I first have apple, then I have horseshoe, then I have Brianna, then I have note. I have blue gradient, green gradient, crinkle, and spotted. So I hope yours looks just like mine does. You know, we need to do just a little bit of work on the Brianna layer. We're going to go ahead and turn off all the layers first. So really easy. Click on the top eye, drag all the way down, they all go off. Now I want you to go back and turn on just Brianna. That works pretty good, don't you think? You know, the best things I've learned are from students who taught me that. We need to now apply something called a layer style. And this one happens to be drop shadow. So you're going to go way up at the top. You see the black apple, Photoshop, File, Edit, Image, Layer. Click on Layer. We're going to go to Layer Style, Layer Style. And we want to go for drop shadow. It's just about in the middle. So see if you can find drop shadow. I'm sure you can. And click on it and let it go. This opens a very interesting box. Don't be intimidated. We're going to learn how to use these settings. Okay, the first thing we're gonna set some parameters here. The opacity needs to be at about 77%. Now you can slide this, or guess what? You can type 77. Then what I'm going to have you do is hit Tab on your keyboard. That takes you down to the angle, which we're going to type 128. I'm going to have you hit Tab again. That one is the distance is going to become 65. Used to be 5, now it's 65. We're going to hit Tab again. The spread is going to be 20. And we're going to hit Tab one more time, and you're going to hit 76 pixels. Now you should be able to see it over to the side here, previewing for you. If not, maybe your preview button is not clicked on. Okay. That allows you, I'm going to leave it on, and you can see that we are previewing the effect. That's going to be pretty helpful. We can now say OK, and we can turn all those layers back on. Now Brianna's got some dimension to her, a little bit of a 3D look there. One more Command S, because that worked well, and we are going to now add some type. If you're looking at your sample there, it says memories and it says 51. I made this whole project to kind of look old, like it was done in the 50s. So we're going to go ahead and access the text tool. It is right here in our tools, and the keyboard shortcut, as you can see, is T. So you can either click on it here or look at your keyboard and hit a T. Now we need this to go above the apple. Of course, we're going to have to go and select the apple layer. And here's the deal with the text tool. Every time you click with that text tool, it's going to add a new layer. That's really good. For some of my students, they end up with 88 text layers. So be aware, every time you're clicking, it is adding a text layer. But let's go ahead and set up the sizes and everything before we type. So you're going to go up to the top. And what I would like you to find and choose is Baskerville. It's near the top. I think you're kind of down in the M's. It's alphabetical order, of course. You need to go up until you find Baskerville. And click on that. Now we want bold italic. So click on bold italic, which is a pull down menu. And as far as the size, what we want for the size is click and go down to 72 point. With the other, which is 51, we're going to have to learn how to do a much bigger number than 72. Let's go ahead and make sure over in the swatches we have selected black and we're ready to type. So what I'm going to have you do is click over to the side, maybe almost over to the edge, but you don't want to go quite that far. You're going to hold down with your mouse and draw a container. Let me warn you to make it bigger rather than smaller. Right about there works. So you can click and drag with this tool and make a container for the type to stay in. So we are now going to type memories. Memories. Great. So we've got memories. Got the right size. We got black. Looking good. You next want to go ahead and click on the check mark to commit to your changes, or your type, I should say. And we are good with that part. Now it needs some work. Look at your sample. It really doesn't look the same as what is on your sample. So we are going to go ahead and first go to the move tool because we need to move it a little bit. Click on your move tool, keyboard shortcut V, and let's go ahead and move it right about here. Looks good. Now you have left and right arrows. It's on the right side of your keyboard. You can always push it up and down, left and right, just a tiny bit with that. I like that as a tool. Let's do a Command S again. I'm doing really good at that. We're going to now go ahead and enhance this layer with some special effects. So we are going to go to Layer. We are going to go to Layer Style, and let's choose Bevel and Emboss. So again, Layer, Layer Style, Bevel and Emboss, and click. Great, you've got Bevel and Emboss, but we need to go ahead and change just a few things here. The depth is going to be 200. Again, you can slide this, or you could simply type 200 and hit Tab. We want the size to be 5, and look how it's changing. Again, the preview is what's allowing you to see that it's changing. So preview on, preview off. The preview is letting you see how you are affecting your layer. Great, but the color isn't quite right. Nope, it's supposed to be a yellow. Let's go ahead and click on Color Overlay. It's in the side here. When you click on it, it turns it on, and by default it's set it red, but we don't really want red. Now right next to blend mode, which is normal, there's a red chip. Just go ahead and click on it, and that brings up all our colors, and we can kind of shop around and find a nice yellow. Now again, a yellow you like. I'm going for kind of a mellow, lighter yellow, and just say okay. Starting to look good, but there's still a little bit missing here. What's missing is a drop shadow. Now let me tell you the trick with this. When you click on the effects and it turns blue, then you get all the options for what it is doing. So right now I'm in the color overlay options. I want to be in drop shadow. Click on it, it turns blue, and you know we're going to set some parameters here. So 77% for the multiply. I'm going to hit Tab again. This is, we're going to set it, let's set it at 130. Hit the Tab again. The distance is going to be 10. Hit the Tab again. The spread is going to be 20. Hit that Tab one more time, and the size is going to be big. It's going to be 35. So look up above there. It's coming along nicely, don't you think? These effects are awesome. They really make a Photoshop document pop. So we are now done with all the effects, and we can say okay. Now over in your layer palette, you see all the effects have been added. Now this is a drop-down menu, so if you don't like seeing all that, not a problem. You can simply turn it off. But we have a little bit more to do here. We have some type to add that says 51. So what I'm going to have you do is choose your text tool, keyboard shortcut T, or you can click on the tool in your toolbar there, And let's go ahead and click on the apple layer to select it. It's okay if it goes above the apple layer, that makes sense. What we're going to do next is go up and set some parameters here. Baskerville is fine, bold italic is fine, but we actually need a really big size. We need 205, and as you can see, it only goes to 72. But this is kind of a fun thing they've added. If you hold on the T, you get a little hand with a finger, and you can slip ahead. You can just keep dragging over. Now I kind of like this, so I'm going to do it this way, but you can also just type in that field right there. Great. Either way, you want 205 for the size. And go ahead and click right in the middle of this note. Important, we got to give it some room. It's some big type, so go ahead and click. And you have black for your color. You should have black. Baskerville, bold italic, 205. Let's type. So let's type our 51. There we go. Boy, it's interesting. It's almost in the right spot, but not really. Great. What I'm going to have you do is click the little check above to commit any changes. And let's go ahead and add some effects to this. We are going to go to Layer, Layer Style, and we're going to again do Bevel and Emboss. Go. The depth, let's make that about 200 is good. Let's type my method 200. And we're going to go ahead and tab. We're next going to set the depth. Do a little bit more. Let's go ahead and go to a lot more. Let's go to about 200 for the depth. So 200, tab. And we are good there. We are next going to go ahead and click on Color Overlay again, like we did before. We don't want red. Red doesn't quite go. Well, it kind of does, but let's go with yellow. You're going to click on this clip and again choose a yellow. I mean, it can be the same. It can be a little different. Like I like to say, it's not brain surgery, it's Photoshop. Say OK. Now one last thing we need to do is one of my favorite effects, which is a drop shadow. And again, remember, when you click on it, then you get the options for that effect. So let's see what we got going here. 77 for the opacity. Tab 130 looks good for the angle, actually. Spread of 20 ought to work good. And by the way, I'm typing and hitting tab. So I type the number, then I hit tab. I'm going to tab again, and the spread is going to be 20. And tab again. I like a really nice spread on my drop shadows, which is going to be 35. That looks really good. So let's say OK. Now I'm going to have to move these over a little bit. We're going to go to our Move tool, which again is a V on our keyboard, because we need to move this slightly. So the way it's supposed to work, you can tell from your print, is that it's supposed to overlap, but it's just not supposed to be that close to the edge. So what I'm going to do is look at my keyboard, and I'm going to go Command T, or you can go Edit, Free Transform. Either one works. And I'm just going to work on sizing this a little bit different, away from the edge. It just seems a little bit too close to the edge. You can either hit this check up at the top, or I like to hit Return on my keyboard, and you can adjust it to be just like your print. And it looks pretty close, but if you notice, the bottom of the 5 and the 1 is just about where those two colors, or those two textures I should say, overlap. One ends and one begins. So that looks a little better. And by the way, again, I'm going to use the up and the down arrow because they're really, just move it ever so slightly, which is what I want. Wow, you have done an awesome job. I'm sure you have a beautiful project all finished. Again, a Command S. It's a good idea to save, often especially at the end of your project. And congratulations, you know a lot more about layers, textures, special effects, apples, horseshoes, and little girls on horses. I hope you had fun.